Hey guys, Tyler here. The Cardassians are one of the most fleshed out alien species in Star Trek. First introduced in the Next Generation Season 4 episode The Wounded, Cardassians are most prominently featured in Deep Space Nine, set aboard the Cardassian-built Federation space station of the same name. Cardassians are frequently depicted as being incredibly xenophobic towards other species, and their government, the Cardassian Union, is a fascist state, having occupied the planet Bajor for half a century until 2369. The Cardassians remain a major player in the Alpha Quadrant during the Dominion War. I've previously made a video about Cardassian biology and evolution, but in this video, I'd like to examine their history, comparing them once again to our expectations about aliens in real life. Let's get started. While Cardassian society and culture is fairly fleshed out on screen, many aspects of their origins and early days are shrouded in mystery. The first Cardassian civilization was called the Hebitian civilization, and their era is naturally called the Hebitian Age. The dates of the Hebitian Age have never been revealed on screen, though the non-canon short story The Glories of the Hebitians dates them to between 10,000 and 6,000 Earth years ago, or about 8,000 to 4,000 BCE. For reference, it was just before this period, the mid-Holocene epoch, that humanity had finally emerged from Earth's most recent ice age. But the Hebitians were advanced in their own right. They employed solar technologies, according to Andrew Robinson's novel A Stitch in Time, and allegedly had contact with other planets, though it's indicated they may not have possessed faster-than-light travel this early. The Hebitians were a spiritual people, worshipping the deity Aurelius in a tradition known as the Aurelian Way, which has survived into the 24th century. But when Cardassia Prime suffered catastrophic climate change, Hebitian civilization fell as millions perished from disease. The survivors would go on to form a militaristic expansionist society in the form of the Cardassian Empire. Much like real human history, Cardassians have likely undergone several cycles of peace, war, democracy, and authoritarianism. The non-canon reference book All Our Yesterdays, the time travel source book, indicates that a second Hebitian period ended in the year 1345 CE with an event called the Great Famine, roughly concurrent with the fallout of the bubonic plague in Europe on Earth. The reference further states that Cardassia became a politically unified world in 1591, concurrent with the late stages of the European Renaissance. The Cardassians subsequently developed warp drive by the year 1670. While these dates are once again not supported nor contradicted by anything on screen, there is one event that occurs in the 16th century that is confirmed in canon: unofficial first contact with the Bajorans. As we are told in the DS9 episode Explorers, early Bajoran astronauts traversed space using light ships equipped with solar sails. At least one of these light ships stumbled upon tachyon eddies that propelled it past the speed of light, carrying it 5 light years to Cardassia Prime. While the Cardassian government at first denied this Bajoran achievement, the discovery of a crash site on Cardassia proved that such an event had in fact taken place. Of course, this crash does not necessarily indicate two-way communication between the two civilizations in the 16th century. But we do know from the episode Accession that the two species are aware of each other by at least the 22nd century. According to the non-canon novel The Crimson Shadow, early Cardassia was dominated by multiple powerful families. One of these may have been Anabrantain's ancestors, though this could simply be apocryphal. This aristocracy composed the supposed origins of the True Way, a secret society that represented the interests of the elites. There was continual strife between the families, which in the mid to late 19th century led to the formation of the Obsidian Order, Cardassia's top intelligence agency. The order was meant to bring an end to civil war and provide stability. We know from canon that at the same time, the Cardassian Central Command and Detapa Council were jointly established as Cardassia's military authority and civilian government, respectively. Theoretically, the Cardassian Central Command and Obsidian Order would answer to the Detapa Council, but in practice, the Council exercised no real power. Together, these three bodies formed what would come to be known as the Cardassian Union. A deleted scene from the episode The Tears of the Prophets would have also established that Tret Ekleen was the father of the Cardassian Empire and that he was born in the Ventani system, indication that the Union was interplanetary from its inception. Nothing really concrete is known about the activities of the Cardassian Union in the 20th century, but presumably during this time it would have been expanding to other star systems. By the late 21st century, a government called the Cardassian First Republic is said to have existed. The First Republic was later known for its serialist poets like Elogia of Prim, who, according to the episode Destiny, was, by the early 23rd century, exiled to Vulcan and met the second host of the Dax symbiont, Tobin, along with the presence of Cardassian voles in Gabriel Lorca's menagerie in Season 1 of Discovery. This confirms that the Federation and Cardassians may have had at least unofficial contact by the 2250s, although Cardassian space travelers are seen venturing near future Federation space by the 2150s. Cardassian society during the First Republic is purported to have been much more peaceful and prosperous, but by the late 23rd and early 24th centuries, the First Republic's time was running out. Due to Cardassia's scarcity in natural resources, the Cardassian people became increasingly impoverished, once again suffering from famine and disease. The population eventually turned to a more militaristic ideology, relying heavily on the Union's further expansion to obtain badly needed resources. The military colonized new, mostly uninhabited worlds and wielded a totalitarian dictatorship over its population. Within time, though, this arrangement would prove insufficient, leading the military to occupy additional nearby worlds and subjugate their native populations to work as laborers, among other things. One such nearby planet was, of course, Bajor, which the Cardassians occupied starting in 2319 and formally annexed 9 years later. This occupation was condemned by the Federation, and the Cardassians' continued expansion brought the two powers into an armed conflict a few decades later, fighting border skirmishes during the mid to late 24th century. One major incident was the Setlik III massacre in 2347, which cost hundreds of thousands of lives and severely weakened the Cardassian Union. This war ended with the Federation-Cardassian Armistice of 2367, followed by the Federation-Cardassian Treaty 3 years later, forming the demilitarized zone along the reshaped Federation-Cardassian border. The layout of the DMZ causes tensions, with multiple Federation colonies ceded to Cardassia. To this day, the Federation-Cardassian Treaty is derided as one of the Federation's shittiest peace deals. Colonists on these worlds are given the option to relocate, though many stay. Disgruntled by the treatment they receive under the Cardassian Union, some citizens decide to revolt, giving birth to the Maquis. The Cardassians withdraw from Bajor in 2369 due to a combination of factors, including efforts of the Bajoran resistance, the unpopularity of the occupation on Cardassia, and losses in the Federation-Cardassian War. To help with external affairs, the Federation is invited by the Bajoran Provisional Government to temporarily take over the ore refining station Terok Nor, hastily abandoned by the Cardassians and renamed Deep Space Nine. Spoilers for DS9: after first contact with the Dominion in the Gamma Quadrant, changelings infiltrate numerous local space governments in a successful attempt to destabilize the Alpha Quadrant, sparking a costly war between the Cardassians and the Klingon Empire between 2372 and 2373. Prior to this tragic event, Enabran Tain, retired leader of the Obsidian Order, takes it upon himself to prevent a pan-galactic war with the Dominion. In a joint operation with the Tal Shiar, he organizes a secret preemptive strike on the Founder's homeworld in the Omarion Nebula, using a combined cloaked fleet of 20 Cardassian and Romulan warships. However, the effort is infiltrated by a Dominion agent, and the fleet is ambushed and utterly decimated by the Jem'Hadar, with only a few survivors left. The battle causes the Obsidian Order to completely collapse, which subsequently allows the Cardassian dissident movement to overthrow the Central Command's authority in early 2372, restoring the Detapa Council and civilian rule. In mid-2373, after the crippling war with the Klingons, the debilitated Cardassian Union joins the Dominion after the previously dishonored Gul Dukat negotiates an alliance between the two powers, acting as a messiah of sorts to his people. When the Dominion decides to finally invade the Alpha Quadrant after some 3 years of Cold War, the Dominion and Cardassia together prove unmatched on all fronts, forcing the Federation and Klingon Empire to constantly retreat. It is only a matter of time before Earth and the rest of the Federation would be conquered, but the tide eventually turns in the Federation Alliance's favor, with this war ending in 2375. By this time, Cardassia's leader, Legate Damar, realizes he is simply running a puppet government under de facto Dominion rule, with Cardassians having become second-class citizens in their own territory. After the female changeling cedes parts of Cardassian space to the Breen Confederacy as compensation for their joining the war, Damar starts his own rebellion, with the general population turning against the Dominion, but not without harsh consequences. The Dominion first destroys Cardassia's capital city as a form of exemplary punishment, and in the end, over 800 million civilians are slaughtered in a planet-wide genocide. The Cardassian military is greatly reduced, and their economy crippled, with the planet once again falling victim to famine and disease, leaving remaining Cardassians to pick up the pieces and rebuild once again. As Klingon Chancellor Martok states whilst standing among countless cindered corpses, such a tragic fate for a once mighty people is likely considered by most Bajorans to be poetic justice. By the 32nd century, Cardassians are somewhat ubiquitous throughout Starfleet, and the president of the Federation is a Bajoran Cardassian human hybrid. By this time, the Cardassians are no doubt a more peaceful, democratic society, likely a member world of the Federation itself, if not merely an ally. With such political and social integration depicted on screen, one has to wonder if this is, in fact, Cardassian history coming full circle. What I mean by this is, it's a relatively popular fan theory that Bajorans and Cardassians are descended from a common ancestor. One major piece of evidence is the fact that Bajorans and Cardassians can apparently reproduce together without medical intervention, though it's unclear if such offspring is fertile, a piece of evidence in the other direction. Cardassians may be descendants of Bajoran colonists who ventured a few light years from their home star system thousands of years ago. After all, while Bajoran space travel in canon is only dated to the 16th century, it's also known in canon that Bajoran civilization is 500,000 years old. Not just that they've been around for 500,000 years, because, you know, Homo sapiens have been around, us humans have been around for 300,000 years, but our civilization has only been around for 5,000 years. Theirs has been around 100 times longer. The intervention of the prophets only dates back to 30,000 years ago, meaning approximately 94% of Bajoran recorded history is completely unknown to us, the audience. And indeed, the DS9 novel Avatar indicates that an artifact on Bajor made of Jevonite, known in canon to be a rare mineral only found on Cardassia, predates the Hebitians. And the short story, The Glories of the Hebitians, suggests early Hebitians possess Bajoran features, implying that later Cardassians may have genetically engineered themselves in order to better and faster adapt to Cardassia's warmer and more humid climate. So, at least in the novel continuity, this seems to be a pretty open and shut case. But what do you think? Let me know down below. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, becoming a patron or a member is a great way to do so. Links to those, as well as my social media and merch store, are in the description. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.
Resist. Resist today. Resist tomorrow. Resist till the last Dominion soldier has been driven from our soil.